Thank you, Infinite Intelligence. Thank you, YouTube, for making this possible. So today, I'm taking the grace of early hours of the morning. I've been awake for a while. Woke up around at 4, I guess, before 4, thereabouts, probably. And I just started working out. So, this is the new history of what I have going on, right? It's not much yet, but I'll get to work on the shoulders eventually. So, there's something about family that is very important to understand. Family is everything in the sense that it's who you spend enough time with, is who your energy is usually around. People that have entered my life, right, most often than not, has been a result of that family, probably associated with a family friend, people that even treated my mom wrongly was because of family, right? Well, my mom didn't just have boundaries, let me just be honest with you. But even at that, I don't see it as she picked the wrong choices because I, I believe she had to live that personal experience for me to see it, right? Sorry, trying to be in the middle. For me to see it and feel this is not what I want to ever experience for any reason. So for me, I'm happy at least there was something to show me what I would rather prefer. It's just the same way her siblings, the disunity within them, right, made me see why I would rather prefer to be united with my siblings. But the thing is, you can't force unity because it doesn't work that way. So even if I love to always, I'm usually someone that loves my own energy because I take importance in doing what, seeing it positive, unlike people that might not care about all that. And it's not like it's a bad thing at any point because people have different levels of growth. So some people might start off not caring about their energy levels or things like that. It doesn't make them bad people. But the thing is, I can't force anybody's growth or change. And I've learned that people would do just shadow work themselves. The best you can do is see the best happening for them, like what they call to hint them in such a way that they see the best they can be, right? That's what I have grown to understand. So family is the issue why we are where we are in Africa because we have a number of people that have negativity within the family. Negativity within the family starts from the head in the sense that those two married couples that decided to be together, they are the reason why there is any negativity within the family. And negativity within the family starts by, you know, how you see that significant other. Now, the thing is, there are two different people coming together to make up a family, right? Married. I'm not trying to say that you must marry everybody to make them your family because you don't have the ability to marry everybody. That's why marriage has divorce to it. Because, but I guess there are some places that you can marry as many wives, but the thing is, the whole point of marriage was two uniting together. That's why on the wedding day they don't say where are the wives or where are the husbands is. They marry one at a time, two people together. That's what usually happens. Even when the person is said to have plenty wives, it's not at that moment, that very day that he married all the wives. Because who does that, right? How would you marry all the women in one day? And because you cannot marry so many women in a day, if not just one person. You cannot marry more than one person in a day legally, right? It just tells you that marriage is supposed to be about two. But most times we like to, you know, justify that we have desires for diversity, right? Because that's the nature of love. Love is diversity, love is infinite. So how can I be with one person? That's why marriage is not something you rush. You know who you want to spend your eternity with. You might feel I'm not worthy enough to talk about marriage. That is okay. You don't really need to listen to me on that note. But you see, the thing about family is that when you have someone that is constantly pulling you down for the slightest thing, even if it is because you have ADHD and you're always messing around, you're always forgetting one thing or the other. If that is not brought up before you become one, and it is now something that brings negative energy in the sense that you do something and the person is irritated, or the person sees something negative to shame you. All those negativity is what leaves cracks in the home. So why be with somebody that you don't like, that would irritate you? That's just the question. Like, before you have a reason to cheat, why be with someone at all, right? That's the question. Like, why? Sorry if I'm trying to reduce my voice. People are still sleeping, and I'm not trying to wake everybody up because I've been awake since. Why be with someone that you don't feel good with genuinely? Like, I don't want you to force yourself into anything to be with me. That's how I see it. Because it doesn't make sense. I'm not looking for something that is temporary. I'm looking for something that is for eternity, honestly, right? So, and because it's for eternity, you have to consider if you can actually live with living space, right? Or how you would live together. I feel if my mom lived in separate rooms with my dad when they got married, a lot of a lot would have been at ease. But the thing is, my mom doesn't like any part of her house dirty. It's almost as if she is not existing to her for that to happen. So she cannot leave any part unclean, and she's too perfectionist, right? And my dad is the ADHD guy that made me have ADHD, but his own ADHD was quite unconscious to him, that kind of thing. I didn't really see it as that. But yes, he was that smart genius that made his siblings hate him growing up. And I want to believe that I don't have any sibling that hates me because of that kind of thing. Because I don't have so many siblings like that. Right? I just have a very handful of them. And I can tell you I'm 100% sure of my younger brother because I literally raised him. Right? That's one person I'm certain of that doesn't have such heart that can never, not doesn't, I can never in any near future have in their heart envy or resentment or something like that. The most understanding person I know personally. Someone that has always made me feel accepted even when I didn't accept myself. My younger brother has been someone I had to live for, literally, before I started seeing the value in living for myself. Before I could appreciate living for myself, the miracle has been my younger brother. So he has no idea what it means to me, right? That I I didn't see value in my life. I just felt, how could I leave this child alone in this mean world? It's not fair. That was me growing up when I was a child. I grew up feeling like I couldn't leave my younger brother in this mean world to suffer. Literally. That was why I was existing as a child. And imagine that kind of person, right? To someone that is excited every time to be alive. So I can tell you that family is very important. And that's because in everything I was experienced within the family circle, right? That made me feel I should go out and virtue voyage. I should go for a vol- I'm trying to pronounce the word voyage. Yeah, I think it's voyage, and seek those that would accept me. That was why I went in search for what I would call family to me, because I didn't feel that acceptance within my space growing up. And I think this is often common with people that have trans experience, right? Growing up, they are conscious of the fact that somehow, it's just like you didn't meet the cutoff mark. Because why? Why is it like that? It's just because a lot of people are expecting you to be somebody you are not. And you don't know how to explain the fact that that is not who I am. That is not how I understand myself. And my own, you know, was at an early age, at age 4, where I realized that, or I was aware or conscious of it, that I voiced it out. But before age 4, I guess I knew, that's all I saw. But voicing it out and everybody laughing, right? That how can I see myself as a man in the future? I live a man now. I don't just live a man, I live the biggest man in my compound. It's not like it's a thing of brag, but the truth is, you cannot. I'm just stating the obvious. I'm not trying to say I'm doing more than the people in my compound. They eat more than I do. They have more financial resources and help than I could ever imagine, right? and they choose to do with it whatever they please. I am not called over anyone. I'm not trying to be that. So it's not about that, right? So a lot of people are not man enough because of whatever perception they hold. And I'm not even caring because all that defines me is love. Every other thing, trans, intersex, is just the experience of my love, right? My energy that is love. To understand why the ego had to die completely, genuinely. And that's always been my understanding. Other people took it as an identity. I never took it as that because it has never been an identity. It's just an experience. What I experience, I've experienced a lot of things in life, and I can tell you that none of the things I've experienced, right, I've ever felt as that is what defines me. So that is why I don't come out and tell you I identify as something other than love. Because an experience to me doesn't feel worthy enough to be an identity just because you experienced it. That's just it, right? It doesn't suit, it doesn't make sense to me to call an experience an identity. And just because some people have a different perception of life, and that is what is important to them, right? Some people feel that if they don't identify with the experience, that they are not authentic. And that's not true. Just like slavery that happened years ago, you that did not even exist when it was happening, you think identifying with slavery, right, makes it more, makes it that you are not discarding it. Because the truth is, that is how I understand it. Experience of slavery should not become your identity. That is why I cannot see myself as a black person or an African person that is bound to African. Because the truth is, before we incarnated, right, we have had different skin colors. My mom used to call my dad a white man with black skin. So I can understand that because it actually feels like he's a reincarnation of something like that. And he probably was, a slave master that was so arrogant, thinking that being black skin is, the most horrible thing to be, and so he had to come as a dark skin. That's the thing. If you think trans is disgusting, just get ready to come as it. You come and experience it personally so that the next time you open your mouth to talk, you are talking from a experienced level, right? And then you appreciate the experience of being trans. You would not see it as something that people just choose to be stupid on, right? And it will make more sense to you. So there are different scenarios of life that are experiences that make you understand love more, why we should love. And the truth is, I do not see it differently than that. So Negativity within the family can tear down both people, and not just both people now. Anything that is building, that is built, that anything that had to be built, like anything that was created by the two of them coming together, also gets torn apart without you conscious of it, because this is energy. Energy is contagious. You don't keep a negative attention and not expect negative emotions not to expand. That's why we don't keep revisiting the history of slavery, right? And don't expect something negative not to sprout out of it, in the sense that it would not feel good all the time once you are someone that sees God in all. Slavery can never genuinely feel good to you. You don't even need to be dark skinned. You just need to see that God is all there is. And then you see that slavery is God experiencing such torture. And you wonder why God should experience something like that. God that is love, the highest level of love. Right. But the next right thing is not to wallow in that attention of negativity, but to heal it, to see that it was negative attention that drew slavery to Africa. Because that's the honest truth. Africans were slave masters way before any external body landed on our borders and started selling. We just made our market international when external bodies landed. We conquered ourselves. We turned other lands owners into other indigents. And it's not as if you created the land, though. They just born you on the land and you felt that that is your land, that's where you want to die on, right? And you now want to expand, because there was something that we call migration then that happened a lot, because a whole village could migrate, or a whole community could migrate or extend itself, right? And they used the hunters to scout, to go for the voyage, to see if there are better lands, and you know how to conquer the land. So the hunters will go and do their rituals to ensure that the land accepts the new people. Then war against the land, kill mostly all the people there if possible, and capture the remaining women and children and use them as slaves. That was what African was doing. We exchanged slaves to with goods as barter, right? And we used them as workforce on our land, because we had plenty acres of land and we didn't have this thing, machine to work on the land. So it was human power that was doing the work. And the human power were slaves that we captured from conquering their lands to, and these lands were what people left for their children and said, this is your land, oh. This is where your land goes to the end. So it wasn't as if they bought any land. They didn't buy any land, they just killed people over the land. They killed other indigens and made them slaves. There was no buying of land, it was kill, occupy, kill, occupy. And that was what was going on. It was a trade that was, slave trade was happening African locally within ourselves, right? So we just took our market internationally when the slave masters came. It was our doing. We drew slavery to ourselves. We expanded slavery. We made slavery what it is. If it didn't exist, they can't just come and install slavery when it doesn't exist. It was us, right, that introduced them to slavery. And they saw it like, wow, these people are even smarter than us. And yet they are sitting on so many resources that they are not even smart to see because they don't want to grow. You see, not growing is because the real downfall on Africa because kings were abusing their powers a lot. Imagine a king would just say any girl he sees it becomes his wife just because he does not know how to control himself. You know, that greed of a king, of not seeing that he should be with only one companion, right, is what actually destroyed Africa because the king had plenty wives. The king's greed of not being contented with one brought so many destruction to his people. And that is the real foundation that African does not want to address. Instead, they propagate it and continue the stupidity, thinking that they're doing anybody but themselves. Because you can't marry more than one person at a time. That is the law, right? And that should tell you that you're supposed to be with one person, but not knowing the value of why you should be with one person, right, made it so. The reason why African did not have kingsmen was because the king, kingsmen in the sense that someone grooming the prince to understand that he's supposed to be with one, is because the king himself has many wives, so he doesn't see, so he cannot give what he doesn't have. He can't groom his son that, son, you would have one wife when I'm having plenty. So the son is like, are you mad? This one, are you okay? How many wives do you have? How many concubines do you have? You are just going around and you think me, I should not enjoy. It sounds like enjoyment, something that is stupidity. It sounds like enjoyment, like there's something enjoying about it. Losing your energy to everything just because you don't know how to build your energy in one. So a union supposed to be two coming together in one to form a family. That was the natural God created path. And the reason why God did it like that is because there was never a separation before the union. It's just two energies remembering that they were never separated. But because there have been so much misconception and distortion in Africa, you will hardly see an African that believes one person is meant for them. There is no even history in Africa that one king, right, was with one for choose only one because the king were so abusive of their power that God stripped off the power from them. That's why they had to kill many, do many rituals that had to involve killing many slaves. They would use slaves to do ritual. They would use pregnant women that have child. They would kill probably like 7 pregnant women with children to gain back a power that was God given. This power that was God given was supposed to use to protect the community. But because God saw that instead of protecting the community, they started enslaving the community. They started oppressing their community, right? So the power was ripped out of the hands of the king that should comfort and guide and protect his community. So before it was that the king was so strong that he could be the strength of 1,000 men, and only the king was able enough to protect his own community. That is why then a king without a kingdom, right? Sorry, a kingdom without a king meant a weak kingdom, a kingdom that can be defeated. And so that was the idea initially. But Africans, with greed and, you know, all that, the king used the fact that he can get any woman to change the oracles of the god. And usually the oracles of the god were men that were dedicated to the deity, right? The god that should protect the land. But when they saw that the king can get any woman, the king would bribe them with women and other things to make them change their mouth so that their mouths will favor the king instead of speak the truth of the gods. Those were the corruptions that still exist today, just elaborated, right? They are still the root cause of the problems you see that African face because that greed, right? That thinking that God does not exist, because that's what I call it. Because I don't know how a whole oracle of the gods that can see clearly would be put himself low to be bribed and accept nonsense just because he wants to be on the favor of the king and not be killed. Because the king did that. The king suppressed them to either bend or get killed. So they just took the bribery and felt, at least I'm alive, right? Instead of being the voice of the people, they were now became the voice of the king, literally. So all this was what made family change because men had to hide their wife, right? At all costs. That's why the African society are used to the women at home and the men working. That was a society programmed from way before slavery happened. It wasn't slavery that brought that about. Oh. It was the king's eyes of greedy eyes for a woman that is not his own. He doesn't know how to keep himself. The weakness of the king, the king's inability to be with one that is his queen. He now has many queens, many concubines, right? That was what happened. And you see, because a woman or mostly a feminine energy, right, must feel good before you consume her. It brought about a lot of distortion of his energy because this one feeling good is not complete. Half that one's feeling good is not complete. You have so many feeling good that you are trying to please and they can't see it. So there's no point even talking about it because once they can't see it, it's like you are talking about colors to someone born blind. Doesn't make sense, right? Imagine that kind of origin of Africa. And that is what African are still reliving till today. The sorrows of then, the sorrows of then that they never considered would affect now. So, on a honest truth, I can tell you that love is always going to bring about togetherness, and free will makes togetherness in one. Sorry that I'm all about the place today, but the truth is, I hope I was able to touch that union well. And if I don't, I would probably do a part two with much more depth. Sometimes when I come online, I'm trying to follow the leading and do other things. And this morning, I just wanted to be by myself this morning. But yes, I promised to come online, and so I'm online. I don't want to make this any much longer. So sorry for if it's. I advise you to fast forward this in case of places where I was stalling because I found my attention was a bit off. I apologize for that. I'll do much better in my next video. I look forward to doing much better in my next video. That's the honest truth. But yes, this is my new stance. I just started growing without gym access and without that certainty eating 3 times a day. But even if I eat only 2 times a day, I'm grateful. Even if it's once, I'm very grateful, right? As long as I can live to the next day. Because what is it about? Life is not about food. It's food that is trying to make life feel special. I guess I said that wrongly just now. let me let me go out and come back before I say more wrong things.